everybody. Welcome again to Hastings Storytelling Festival. It's lovely to see you all. I'm realising over the week I've been looking at the participants list and we've got a few Xanthe Gresham super fans. I don't know whether Xanthe's had a chance to look, but thank you for coming back if you've been with us earlier in the week, and you're very welcome if it's your first evening. The Hastings Storytelling Festival is in its 10th year, which is unbelievable to us. Obviously, you can see we're online this year. A few live events, very small live events, socially distanced, that have sold out, but mostly online. And I think this is going to be a way forward, because we've realised in the chats you're telling us where you come from, and we're reaching people all over the world, which is magnificent. So we have an event that's streamed tomorrow night. I wanted to sort of just let you know this before we move to Xanthe, with Gareth Rees. So he's a psychogeographer, has quite a following in Hastings. He's just launching his new book called Unofficial Britain, that are stories about motorways, pylons, supermarket car parks. I think he's researched all sorts of weird and wonderful places, and stories that he tells in relation to these places that are really engaging. I recommend, if you can manage another night with us tomorrow night at 7:30, it will be worth it. Xanthe's been bringing lots of international friends, which is just a bonus to us. Xanthe and I talked about her goddess festival that she was arranging, that we should have had in person, and came up with this idea for sort of the goddess in the kitchen, which is working brilliantly. But Xanthe's invited lots of extra people, so it's just been an incredible bonus for us. So thank you for those of you that have joined us over the week. Alia's with us tonight, and she's also been recording with some families in Northeast Hastings. So there's another film with Alia for children on Sunday afternoon. I wanted to point out that each evening we do seem to run over by about 10 minutes. So, you know, if you need to go at 8:30, that's fine. But we do sometimes run over a little bit. And that tonight we've got a more adult show. So you would have seen in the credits there that it's 16 plus. It's just, an adult content tonight. So I wanted to flag that up at the start. I've sort of got used to being sat here every evening at 7:30. I was thinking with Xanthe, maybe we should have a monthly goddess club or something, because I feel like I've entered this whole new world and I don't want to lose you. There is the opportunity to read more about the goddesses and heroines in Xanthe's book, so do have a look out for that. And just to let you know that we'll be recording tonight. You won't be seen unless you actually ask to come in as part of a discussion, but we do record your chat, which helps us enormously. Obviously we rely on funding to help put these events on, so anything that you can add into the chat that you think will be useful to us, positive and negative, we're new at this, we want to know. So that's it from me. I'm going to welcome the fabulous Xanthe Gresham. I'm really looking forward to tonight. Thank you, Xanthe.
Thank you so much, Mandy. Yes, and I love the idea of a goddess club. We're all goddesses here, male, female, non-binary. That's what she is herself, or they are themselves. Yes, so without more ado, I think we'll get started. Huge thanks to Kathy Hammad for the film and direction that's coming. Today, we're going to make Neolithic sweetmeats in the shape of a certain part of the goddess's anatomy. Her honey pot, her yum yum, her sticky bun, her coochie cookie, her cupcake. So, our key utensils are mortars and pestles. In patriarchal philosophy, the male pestle sets itself up as superior and separate to the female pot. But in kitchen goddess philosophy, they are both one. You'll see here we have 3 mortar and pestles. They stand for birth, life and death. But again, in goddess philosophy, birth, life and death are all one, part of the spiral, the spring, the flow, the fons origio, the font of life. Birth, life, death, birth, life, death, birth, life, death. In fact, the kitchen goddess renews herself on a moment-by-moment basis by bathing in the waters of life. 5,000 years ago, the ancient Sumerians had a goddess of water called Ururu, and her name was also a chant, Ururu, Ururu, Ururu. But why chant to water? I suppose it's to magnetise it, energise it with gratitude for life. That reminds me, when I was making my first batch of Neolithic sweets as a practice for this film, I decided to chant to them at the end. And while I was lost in this meditation, my dog leapt up, put a paws on the counter and ate 5 of them. She's a whippet, that's what she does. Roo, Roo, I said, that's her name. Stop it! And then I thought to myself, the dog has imbibed the sweets, the water is in the sweets, why not just chant to the dog? Dog is God backwards. Roo, 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 Roo. I realised it was exactly the same. Roo, Roo, Roo. Anyway, moving on. Our ingredients: walnuts, ginger, bee pollen, almonds, cardamom, rosewater, cinnamon, dates, and honey. Those same Sumerians worshipped a goddess in the form of a bee, an actual bee. On the clay tablets you can see bzzz, or a woman dressed in beehive skirts. Why was the goddess, one of the goddesses, a bee? Well, if you think about it, the bee collects the best essence of the flower, and the goddess energy collects the best essence of ourselves, our joie de vivre, our liquid connection with life, our... In celebration of this ingredient, honey, we're going to tell a story from the 15th century text, The Perfumed Garden, by Sheikh Mohammed Nafsawi. It's incredibly misogynistic, but we're going to return it to its fons originaux form. So I want you to get into the spirit of a black, black night with just the thinnest fingernail moon and 3 men riding black, steaming stallions. Abu the master, shadung. Abu the slave, shabah. Abu the friend, shab. All of them in search of the legendary princess Zohara. They wanted to own her, to have her, to claim her. So as we're doing this, I think we need to get into the spirit of the 3 Abus. So I know you're watching this film, probably alone or just in the company of 1 or 2 people, but let's get into the spirit of the black, black night. So here we go. And you can choose, are you shabung? Are you shabah? Are you shabee? Depends on your nature, masterful, servile or loving. Shabah. Shabee. Very good. They came to Princess Zohara's cave, and outside Princess Zohara's cave there was a tree, no ordinary tree. This had enormous fruits, and each fruit was bulging and buzzing. One of the fruits swelled and swelled until it split, and out came a girl, naked, fully formed, shouting, "Whack whack!" She went into the cave, and the 3 Abus were stunned. Because in those 2 words, whack whack, they perceived that all of the wisdom of the world was speeded up, if only they could understand it. Now, in pursuit of wisdom, they ran after the girl into the cave, but it was empty, apart from an enormous table decorated with all kinds of exquisite foods: saffron rice, lamb, dates, sweetmeats. The 3 men were very hungry, and so they started to eat. And then they heard coming from the shadows, and they realised that this belly of a cave must have lots of secret passages. They were intruders. They hid. From their secret hiding places, they saw pouring into the cave beautiful girls, all surrounding the ageless Princess Zohara, who herself was surrounded by lions gambolling at her ankles. Some of the girls ate, some of the girls got instruments and started to dance, but the ageless Princess Zohara lit a candle and stared at it, buzzing, Hours passed. In the end, they were so exhausted and aching, they just had to come out. What took you so long, and what is it that you want? Abu the friend was the first to come forward. He threw himself down in the dust of the cave and kissed it as if it was Princess Zohara's foot. I just want to love you, he said. Oh, sweet. You? Abu the slave came forward. He went down on his knees and clasped his hands to his chest and bowed his head. I want to serve you, he said. Well, service is good. You. Abu the master strode manfully forward, his sabre erect. He put his thumb under her chin and said, I want coition with you. Really? Well, can you stand the weapon of the earth goddess? Yes. What weapon? My bow strung with honeybees and my 5 fragrant arrows. Fascination, disturbance, burning, desiccation and destruction. I think so. Oh, well in that case make love to each of my virgins from new moon to full moon to new moon, without tiring and without ejaculating a single drop. And to help you, take this. I'm going to give you some cardamom, some walnuts, some ginger, you. What shall I give you? Well, first of all, take my heart companion. Her bounty is as boundless as the sea. Come here, darling, and make love to her from new moon to full moon to black moon, tirelessly, continuously ejaculating. And to help you, take this. I'm going to give you some almonds and some rose water. Now you, oh so sweet, why don't you just watch from new moon to full moon to new moon? And to help you, take this. Bee pollen. Stay awake. The 3 Abus carried out the instructions of Princess Zohara. Abu the master went to it straight, and it says in the perfumed garden, from the front, in the natural way. But what he didn't realise was the virgins were virgin in the original sense of the word. They were one with the birth, life, death spiral. They renewed their virginity on a moment-by-moment basis. Their backs streamed with sandalwood. Their breath was scented with mango, their breasts seasoned with saffron and cloves, their navel with jasmine, their waists with crown flower. And so Abu the master was initiated in the hanging position, the rising position, the inversion, the somersault, the swing. He learned every spot in a woman's body that, ooh, every nerve that, ah. And thanks to their expertise, his date didn't dissolve and his cup didn't run over. From new moon to full moon, from full moon to black moon. As for Abu the slave, as soon as he saw the heart companion of the Princess Zohara, his heart began to beat and his knees began to buckle. He took his remedy, went for his marathon, and they didn't tire in the whole of the allotted period. The friend stayed awake, just on a diet of bee pollen. Nafsawi, and I would agree, says that the secret of the success was down to that magical ingredient of honey. Well done. said the legendary ageless Princess Zohara. "You have all succeeded in your tasks. Abu the Master, you may marry me, and when you do, the whole of the land will benefit from our fertility. Iron will turn to silver, silver to gold, sacking to silk, and thorns to dates. Abu the slave, you should never have been a slave in the first place. What were you thinking of, Abu the Master? Have your freedom, take my heart companion, and wherever you go, when people come within a mile of your abode, they will feel suddenly, inexplicably joyous and fragrantly happy. As for you, my dear friend, just let your soul mate with creation." Off you go. Abu the friend went out and he started to commune with the spiralings of plants and petals. And as he looked at a rose, it was him, not Fibonacci, that discovered that famous sequence. The doors of his perception opened and he started to spiral. And as he started to spiral, he became one with birth, life, death. He carried on wandering in ecstasy, and when he finally died, his soul essence was composted and found by the taproot of the wak-wak tree, which took it all the way to the fat fruits of the wak-wak tree outside Princess Zohara's cave. And Abu the friend was reborn wak-wak as a she. But he only came into his wisdom as a she when menopausal. I prefer the word climacteric because it really seems to express the female condition at this time of her life. The ancients believed that when a woman was young, she was subject to the moon and the tides. But when she was climacteric, she took the moon and tides within her blood, and hence that was the source of all her power. So, let's just celebrate that thought. Cunt sweet? Now, why do I use that word, cunt? I don't mean to be profane. On the contrary, it was originally considered an extraordinarily sacred word because it doesn't just cover the female flower. It doesn't just cover the vagina, that canal between flower and uterus. It's the whole reproductive shebang. And one begins to wonder, how did such a sacred word become degraded? And I think it's because of this. In the London playground, if one child wants to send another child ballistic with an insult, they will say, "Ya mum!" Insulting that child's connection with their mother, but not just their own mother, the primal mother, the fons origia. And if I were to eat this sweet, you know, I feel I'm becoming one with seed, flower, fruit, nectar, etc. Yes, happening. It's happening. Oh, I am becoming one with my own wak-wak. Okay, so the wak-wak tree. Laura, could you share our picture of the wak-wak tree? It's done by a 17th century artist who's unknown. And you'll see that it's obviously a goddess matrix of a tree because it's got everything. It's got birds for her realm of the sky or their realm of the sky. It's got animals for the realm of the earth. And it's got fishes even at the bottom there. I don't know if you can see it, but there's little fishes leaping at the root of the tree. And then, of course, the spiraling birth, life, death snakes all the way around the trunk.
The wak-wak tree has hermaphrodite qualities, being able to give birth to so many different elements of life. And sometimes it's shown with a male trunk and a female trunk. The male trunk speaks loudly all day, and the female whispers at night, breathing musk into our prophetic dreams. And now over to Alia Alzougbi, BAFTA-nominated artist, storyteller and producer, who's going to talk to us about women in Syria.
Hi, Alia.
Hi,
Hello.
Xanthe. Hi.
Hi. Hi. Yes, I just wanted to ask you if there's any difference between the way the women in the UK deal with sex and the women in Syria, where I know you were brought up as a young girl.
Yeah, it's really interesting, of course, reflecting on texts like these, because my own experience growing up, women pretty much had their own private space. And while we can see that as, you know, the division between men and women as some people would call it, I don't know, backward or whatever, you know, for whatever reason, what actually that private space gave us was a lot of freedom to talk about all of these things. My family, the female side, the female goddesses that I descend from, spoke quite openly about sex. And I was very young, I remember as well. You know, you pick up tips. You pick up tips from a pretty young age about how to enjoy sex as a woman, and this is passed on generation to generation, quite openly, because these spaces are private, they're for women, and something different happens when women have a space like that to themselves.
Mm. You can't remember any particular tips could be useful for us tonight.
Yes, I can. I mean, my favorite one, there are a few I can name, but one I have tried and tested myself. I've tried them all, but this is the one that works. I really think I'd like to pass this as a gift to everyone, is to have sex on a half full bladder.
Really?
Yes.
Why would you have sex on a half full bladder? Wouldn't that make you feel a bit insecure?
Well, you know, I mean, you do have to be a bit careful. It's true, but yeah, there is something that happens when there's a compression in that area, in the pelvic area. So there's less space, so to speak, and so there is an enhanced feeling, an awakening down there.
Are you? Is this just for women? Are you talking about?
See, that's interesting, Xanthe, because I don't know. I mean, we weren't in on conversations that men had, just like they weren't in on conversations that we had. And because I did not end up marrying a Syrian man, I cannot check, but I could check into that.
But about women's sexuality, were women helping each other to have a good time in that way, do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, the biggest one that I've always spoken about is what's known in the West as belly dancing. And the way I grew up with it is it's not something that you do for men. It's something that you do when you close the door, and women have a lot of fun with each other, belly to the point of sweating. Like, I mean, in those rooms, sweating, dancing. There's something very, you know, almost spiritual and goddess-like about it. It was something for women, not necessarily for men. I mean, a woman could choose to take it to the bedroom.
When you were saying you're sort of sweating a lot and dancing, I wonder if it's something about getting into a trance state and connecting with something bigger, because didn't they also used to use it for to encourage people to help relax when you're giving birth?
Absolutely.
Or did I make that?
No, absolutely. I mean, it does go down to fertility as well, and also being very connected to that part of the body, like really feeling it, and being in it. Like when you're dancing in this way, you have to be so conscious, conscious in a positive way. I'm trying to find the better English word for it, but this idea of really inhabiting that part of your body and being with it. And being very relaxed, being very relaxed in that area.
Oh, well, maybe I can have a few belly dancing lessons from you, Alia. Can you belly dance?
I can, of course.
I won't ask you to demonstrate. It's not a warm enough evening, but you know, maybe in one of our goddess clubs we could go there.
That would be fun.
I just wanted to ask you as well, Alia. The Perfumed Garden is a text I know that you're familiar with. And I had a bit of problems when I first read it because it did seem so misogynistic. And I wonder, how do you deal with misogynistic texts or misogyny in general?
Yeah, I mean, Xanthe, yeah, as you say, texts that from this part of the world, from other parts of the world, can be misogynistic, racist, ableist. I mean, there are so many problems with some of the folktales we get. And I guess part of what I do, and when I read them and approach them, is, yeah, it's easy to kind of dismiss them, but actually they're jewels. There's something about them that is a jewel at the heart of it. So I like to think of them, like I like to approach them the way I approach my father. My father is a jewel. He's a beautiful creature, but he's misogynistic, he's racist, and he's ableist. So, the fact is that I'll let him be, but I'll provoke him and I'll agitate and I'll subvert. But in the end, I love him. He's what I've come from, and I've become something different. And I suppose we could approach some of these stories in that way. They're what we've come from, but we have every right to subvert them, to love where we come from, not to disown where we come from, but to also welcome the new spaces that we are stepping into.
Yeah, well, I think that's a fantastic note to end on, Alia, to be creative. That's a very goddess philosophy, to be creative, to subvert, and just to keep it as much as possible alive in love. Wow, that's fantastic. Thank you very much, Alia. We're just talking about a goddess philosophy there. I think we'll move now to Fleur Shorthouse, who is both a philosopher and a storyteller. I wanted to ask you, Fleur, if you're there,
what about the ancient Greek philosophers' view of sex?
Yeah, loads of lovely terms from Greek philosophy. So words like agape, brotherly love, and philios, which is the love that you get in philosophy, the love that the philosopher has for ideas. And that's also a kind of brotherly love. And there's other storge, which is the love that parents have for children, and eros, which is erotic sexual love. And I think we all know that Aphrodite is the goddess of love and desire, but she presides over the erotes, and they are winged love beings who have got different delegations of different types of love. And so I've mentioned Eros, her beloved son, god of erotic love, but then there's also Anteros, and he's god of returned love, and Hemeros, who's a badly behaved, impetuous god of sort of pressing desire. And then there's Pathos, who's much better behaved, who's a yearning, longing kind of love. And then Hedilogos, who's sweet speech, the sweet speech of love. And Hermaias, who's the god of the bridal chamber. But my favorite is Hermaphroditos, and he's the god of born to Aphrodite, and Hermes fathered him, and he's double sexed, and he reminds us of manly women and womanly men, and he's really like a great sort of god for us, for celebrating fluidity of sexes, fluidity of genders, and fluidity of loves. So he's a great person to have around at the moment.
Hermaphroditos reminds me of Balbo.
Yeah, she who speaks from between her legs, she sees with her nipples, and breasts have many stories to tell, as many as vaginas. So yeah, it's Balbo for this evening, I think, and for me it's been a Balbo year. Yeah,
it's been a Balbo year for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to tell us any more about that? Or
maybe later.
No.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Right. Thinking about Balbo, I think
there
sometimes related to Iambe, who is a rhythmic goddess, isn't she?
Yeah.
And also often a transgender goddess. Both of them have got, are more theys than he's or she's. And Balbo appears when the great earth goddess Demeter has lost everything, lost her daughter, lost everything, and she's in the depths of depression. And then there comes a moment when Balbo, who is an androgynous servant, lifts up the dress to try and cheer Demeter up to reveal that she's
There.
naked underneath, apart from the fact that on
There.
the body a face is painted, like you say. But I think the whole idea is that to get everybody sort of connected, like Alia was saying, to that base chakra, that thump of life. And I thought, Fleur, that we might do that now. So because also what they would do is they would, I need to get organized here. They would wear a wig so that the face doesn't detract from the bodily parts, or the brain detract from body parts. So I'm going to put a wig on here like this. And we're going to start a rhythm. Which
I'm going to fluff my hair up a bit.
You don't need a wig. You could just put it over your face. That could be good. Yeah. So we'll distract that. And we're going to turn, those people who are going to join in, we're going to sort out our original sound. So we're going to just start the rhythm. Okay. Do feel free to join in at home. And it goes something like this. Aphrodite, Balbo. You can say that if you like. Aphrodite, Balbo. Our eyeballs have slipped to our tits, so we're really quite famous. Our ears, our anus, a synesthesiac duo. Aphrodite, Balbo. Our nose is a navel mid-torso, with a prick of great wit and oracular clit. We're a cunny-literate duo. Aphrodite, Balbo. We like to plough our own furrow with a fountainous pole and selection of holes. We can tarantella with gusto. So I hope that's got us into our very nice. You look like a bacchant there, Fleur.
Great. We needed to tune into our earthy sides as well as our spiritual sides to meet Seema Ananad, author of The Arts of Seduction, based on the Kama Sutra, who I spoke to earlier today.
So, Seema Ananad, author of Arts of Seduction, delighted to have you here on how to be a kitchen goddess. You are already a kitchen goddess in many senses of the word. Can you just tell us your thoughts on Princess Zohara? Because for me, you are the embodiment of that character.
Oh, absolutely. But I have to say, Xanthe, you forgot certain bits of the body. You know, there's mint that had to be rubbed on the and on the arms, and the citrus that goes just under the feet and so on. Because just remember, when you perfume yourself, you perfume every part of your body. Every part of your body comes alive. And at the end of it, you're like a banquet of tastes, of textures, of smells. It's, you know, think about it. Your body, when you make love, is a journey. It's a path. It's a road that your lover must travel. And every little part has to be enhanced so that that journey doesn't end too soon.
And I know that in the story of Princess Zohara, the moon is important, and there's the 28-day cycle, and I believe that's according to your book, where
Absolutely.
the information about the scent is from the Arts of Seduction. So any potential storytellers or documentary makers out there that need a good source book, this is the one. Yes, what's the moon got to do with it?
Okay, so you know how the moon impacts the movement of the waters and the tides. So I loved what you said, that as you get older, when you get to our age, you know, you actually imbibe the moon and the energies of the moon. So what we say is that as the moon moves in its phases, your waters inside you get pulled around, and it actually changes the focal point of the energy. So it changes your erogenous zone to different parts of your body. But it also means that that erogenous zone is your point of energy. It's your pressure point for that day. That's where all your Shakti, that's where all your energy sits. And in order to arouse that, that's where you have to, that's that. So on the day of the full moon, on the night of the full moon rather, everything is over here. And they say that to arouse it, you have to massage the hair and sort of, tap gradually and kiss the scalp and so on. On the second day, it's the eyes, and they have to be gently kissed. On the new moon, it is the feet. All of your Shakti, all of your energy is in your feet. And so every part of the body had to be aroused differently, because each Shakti is different, it manifests differently, it has to be aroused differently, and it helps you in something different.
And what's food got to do with arousal?
Oh, food is so important. You know, people Google aphrodisiacs and they think that, I mean, there's all this generic stuff, anything that looks red or looks heart-shaped and, you know, that goes for aphrodisiacs. The Kama Sutra says that food is extremely important. Actually, our ancient texts say that food is really important. So if you look at it from an entirely spiritual level, this is your cycle of life and death. Everything that exists out there exists inside you as well. The upper part of your body is known, so in our belief system, we say that the cycle of life and death is represented by the goddess Parvati and her consort Shiva. The upper part of the body, which is the respiratory organs, is your metabolic, it's your creative metabolism. And that is known as the Matrika Shakti, the energy of the mother goddess. The lower part, as you know, in the pantheon, in the Hindu pantheon, Shiva is the destroyer. So you have the creator, the maintainer, and the destroyer. So the lower part of your body, where the food is digested and distributed, it's known as the Pitrika Shakti. That's the destructive metabolism. That is the area that is ruled over by Shiva. And so it is Shiva, the destructive metabolism, the one who decides what is kept in the body, what is given away, that balances the rest of life on that. So you see lots of pictures, you see lots of paintings with Shiva on the floor and Kali standing with her foot on him, with her tongue hanging out. It actually represents the cycle of life and death, him maintaining all the activity that goes on over here. But you know, the Kama Sutra says incredible things. So it says that this idea of the Western idea of the aphrodisiac, I'm going to break it to you, there's no such thing as an aphrodisiac. There is no such thing that you're going to eat and it'll suddenly make you into an amazing lover. It doesn't quite work like that. You know what they say is the best aphrodisiac? It's something that changes with age, incidentally. It's something that will get rid of your bloating. Because for good sex, the blood needs to flow well to the sexual organs. And bloating gets in the way, so you are not allowed to eat before sex. You have a couple of glasses of wine and something small and savory to eat, and the main meal is had afterwards. But it's not what you eat, it's how it's presented, it's how it's eaten. What are the different tastes? Did you know that apparently chicken broth was fed to very tired courtesans who had performed their position where they were on top? They got very tired doing that one.
To give them a bit more energy.
To give them a bit more energy for the next round. Or even for the next time. Or just to sustain them for after it was all done. But it was different types of wine, and it was how the wine was given to you, what stories accompanied it. That was really important.
Yes, now, what about honey wine?
So it's interesting that you said honey wine. Do you know, so there are 4 different types of wine that are mentioned in ancient Hindu mythology. Honey wine is extremely special. It still follows the tradition that when you get married, when the bridegroom comes, he is given a little concoction mixed with honey, because it was to show just how much love you feel. It was when you really, really wanted to show love and welcome and a great deal of attachment. That was depicted with honey wine. So honey was very, very important.
So it's kind of moving away from the sex side of things to this warm, loving embrace.
Yeah,
and an embrace of good food.
In an embrace of good food, absolutely. But what's even more interesting is, like I said, what stories are told with that. So like before you have sex, you want to arouse the person. Okay, so you want to get them going. So you tell raunchy stories, and that's what, the sort of red wine concoction that you have before sex. You tell bawdy, naughty stories to arouse them. After sex, you have to let your partner know. You have to convince the woman that what she has done is a good thing, that it's a great thing that you've chosen to make love. And you want to tell her stories of how lots of people who came together and became lovers lived happily ever after. So because you want her to feel that she's not only done the right thing making love to you, but that she wants to do it again. Okay, because how you finish this time will decide how quickly she comes back to your bed next time. So the different types of food are fed where you pick up something and then the man would take a bite of it and say, that's sweet. Here, take a bite.
That's sweet.
And that is how the food is then, that's how it was fed. That's how it was consumed after lovemaking. Each different taste was picked up by the man. He would bite into it, tell her what to expect, and then give her a bite of it. And at the same time, tell her stories.
On that note, Seema,
Yes.
we've taken a little bit of bite of Seema's vast knowledge here, and as I say, she's my mentor in all things spiritual and tantric. But next year, hopefully, we'll have a goddess festival and we'll be presenting something like the Karma Kitchen.
Yes, we're going to do the Karma Kitchen. I think that people need to understand how they must eat food. What has what impact on you when you eat it, on your senses. You know, we're always talking about this aphrodisiac that's eaten on the wedding night. It wasn't really an aphrodisiac that was going to make you amazing. It was something that would actually raise your body temperature so that you would come more quickly, because on the wedding night, you're both expected to be very naive. You don't know what you're doing. And rather than you groping around in the dark for hours trying to figure out what to do, making each other very miserable, the idea was that it raised your inner body temperature, your blood's temperature.
Yeah.
And you came to orgasm more quickly.
And you got over your shyness, something kind of bigger and hotter took over. Thank you. Oh, the wonderful, wonderful Seema Anand. I don't know if anybody's got any questions before we wind up the evening. There's a question and answer chat there. Or Laura, has anything come up in the chat that needs to be followed up?
There was definitely some calls for you to do a monthly goddess evening based around the lunar cycle. So I believe that's a plea that comes from all of us now that we've heard the concept.
Yes, and maybe we could take a different erogenous zone to work on each month. That could be good. We get Seema as our mentor. We can't ask her if we can do that because she's not here. Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
So I would like to ask you just how did you first start such an amazing relationship with Seema? Because obviously you talk about her growing into your mentor and all that kind of thing. But when did you start to share those kind of aspects of like your experiences with sex and pleasure?
Yeah, I think we didn't start. We started the minute we met. But I will say one thing about Seema. The first time I met her, I don't know if you noticed, I'm crazy about goddess symbols, and she's got one on her cheek. On her left cheek, she has a full moon and a crescent moon birthmark underneath, which is extraordinarily auspicious. And I don't know whether it was that I don't know, magnetized her towards me, but we just got on really well, and we've done loads of storytelling and projects together. So yeah, she's utterly wonderful. Her book, The Arts of Seduction, is just great, and it's as witty and entertaining as Seema is herself. Yeah.
Xanthe, someone's asking for Seema's family name, please.
It's Seema Anand. Seema Anand. So we've had Alia Alzougbi, Fleur Shorthouse, Seema Anand, and I should be telling you that Arash Maradi, who also did the music for Tuesday, did the music for Princess Zohara. Okay, there's a question here, it looks like, coming up from Helen Shreve. What does she say? Top tips for keeping our goddess energy up in the current circumstances. Thank you very much, Helen, for that, because it brings me to our final goddess of the evening, who has one foot in Asia and one foot in Europe, and that's the goddess Hecate. And she's the mistress of numbers. And I think it's all about energy, isn't it? Maintaining your energy. And Hecate has a strophalos, which was a sapphire surrounded by a golden ball, obviously not the tennis ball in a stocking like I've got here, a sapphire surrounded by a golden ball. And attached to a leather rawhide thong, and on the leather rawhide thong were numbers. As I said, she was mistress of numbers, including C19. And if she whirled her strophalos, and I haven't really got space, it made a sound like a wild beast roaring a little bit. I don't know if you can hear it. Try not to knock, but anyway, it's kind of like a whirring, like a bull roarer. And the numbers on her strophalos activated all the numbers of creation, because she'd given every living thing a pin code. And when everything was swept up together, like in a moment of storytelling or great sex or good food or fantastic music, you would feel one with the source, the birth, life, death spiral. So I'm just going to end, before I give thank yous, with a hymn to Hecate. Hecate, mistress of the night, wild dancer who revels with the stars and sets the world ablaze, purify our inner fire. Mistress of the keys, open up the flower, breathe your cosmic breath through the narrow spaces of our souls, unlock the secret numbers. Mistress of the crossroads, throwing around us bonds of love, heavy as fire, carrying us over the thresholds of birth and death, ensoul the world with light. So thanks to Hastings Storytelling Festival, thanks to 18 Hours, Mandy Curtis, Naomi Robinson, Jane Luscombe for having the idea for Kitchen Goddess and letting me run with it. Thanks to
before you run through all your credits, sorry, I've got to interrupt you because I won't have a chance, but it's been absolutely brilliant. I've absolutely loved every single evening. I'm so pleased that you've done it. I think we pushed you a little bit out of your comfort zone. It's not what you usually do. People might think that you're in the kitchen, you know, as a goddess every evening, but you tell me you're not. So I really, really thank you very much. You know, it's been a fabulous start to the festival.
Oh, thank you so much, Mandy. And it was actually your faith, because the Kitchen Goddess was totally your idea. And I think it came from the brilliant Kathy Hammad's Buddha Babies trailer, where we were making a cake, or rather Kathy was making most of the cake and making it look like me making it. So can I continue with my thank yous now, Mandy? I'm going to anyway. Okay, so yeah, I just want to obviously thank you to the 18 Hours team. Thank you for making this happen. Thank you to the tech team, Laura Coppin, who's been on 2 of the Kitchen Goddess evenings, taking us on magical journeys in the woods, Adam Clements and Benjamin Giubarelli. To the mythic goddesses of every evening, Iska of the Ashtown Forest, Egyptian Isis, Sumerian, Inanna, South American Tonantzin, and the Virgin of Guadalupe. To the human goddesses based here in the UK, Seema Ananad, Fleur Shorthouse, Alia Alzougbi, Anna Lines, Suzanne Corby, and Philippa Snell. And to the non-binary goddesses, courtesy of Zoom, who came from all over the world, Alex Etchart from Uruguay, Arash Maradi from LA, though he's from Iranian Kurdistan, Argentinian Gisela Reyes, zooming in from Chile, gardener extraordinaire Tanya Batt from Waiheke Island in New Zealand, Katrine Faber, voice virtuoso, and Axel Strim, musician from Denmark. So thank you all, everybody, so much for coming. And as I say, all the films will be up on the 18 Hours website pretty soon, I think. Thank you so much.